أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يسهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. My dear audiences, my dear friends, brothers, sisters and those who are watching through Facebook, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is a great pleasure for me to attend this Tafsirul Mahfil, and at the very beginning, at the commencement of this Tafsirul Mahfil, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying Alhamdulillah, all praises are only for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, in today's Tafsirul Mahfil, we shall have a discussion on verse number 151, 150 and 151 of Suratun Nisa. So as usual, at first, we shall go to the recitation as well as meaning of these two verses, two ayat of Suratun Nisa, ayat number 150 and 151. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين يكفرون بالله ورسله ويريدون أن يفرقوا بين الله ورسوله وَيَقُولُونَ نُؤْمِنُ بِبَعْضٍ وَنَكْفُرُ بِبَعْضٍ وَيُرِيدُونَ أَن يَتَّخِذُوا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا أُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ حَقًّا وَأَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابًا مُهِينًا صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك. I seek refuge, I seek shelter to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the accursed devil, and I am beginning with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is most merciful, most beneficent. Innal ladhina yakfuruna billahi wa rasulihi, those who are denying Allah and His Messenger, وَيُرِيدُونَ أَن يُفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, they want to make a division between Allah and His Messenger. وَيَقُولُونَ نُؤْمِنُ بِبَعْضٍ وَنَكْفُرُ بِبَعْضٍ, and they used to say, we have accepted part of Islam and we have rejected part of Islam. وَيُرِيدُونَ أَن يَتَّخِذُوا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا, and they want to adopt a middle way. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ حَقًّا, they are the actual non-believers of Islam. وَأَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابًا مُهِينًا, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I have prepared serious punishment, humiliated punishment for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said the truth, and His prophets and messengers have also said the truth, and we are among the witnesses. O Allah, bless your servant and prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the recitation as well as meaning of ayat number 150 and 151 of Suratun Nisa. Suratun Nisa is the surah number 4 in the Holy Qur'an, and An-Nisa means women. In these two ayats, in these two verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is categorically stating here that in Islam there is no scope, there is no way to accept Islam partly. If anyone wants to be admitted in Islam, if anyone wants to be a Muslim, he or she must enter in Islam completely, fully, comprehensively. There is no scope in Islam accepting Islam partly and rejecting Islam partly. Nauzubillahi min zalik. Being a Muslim, it will have to be our utmost duty to accept the rules and regulations of Holy Quran and Hadith completely. If we accept partly and if we reject partly, that means we are not actual believer of Islam. Here in verse 150 of Suratun Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a definition of a true Muslim, of an actual believer of Islam. An actual believer of Islam will accept Islam by heart and soul, fully, completely, comprehensively, without raising any question. Now inshallah, we shall go with some other ayat, other verses from other surah of the Holy Quran. Those are relevant in today's tafsir. First relevant verse is second part of Suratul Baqarah, ayat number 85 of Suratul Baqarah, second part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَى أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us whether you will accept part of this book and reject part of this book. I have just said there is no scope in Islam to accept Islam in part. If we want to be admitted in the heaven, in the life of hereafter, and if we want to be succeeded both in here and hereafter, we shall have to accept Islam completely, comprehensively, fully. Suppose you are Abdul Rahim, you are a government officer. You used to perform 5 times prayers. You used to pay zakat. You are performing all the rules and regulations of Islam. But you are a corrupt officer. You used to take bribe in your professional life. Nauzubillahi min zalik. That means you are accepting Islam in part. Taking bribe in Islam is completely prohibited. So this function, these activities of taking bribe is not permitted in Islam. That means you are not a true believer of Islam. You are not an actual believer of Islam as per the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, do you want to accept Islam partly and reject Islam partly? No. فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ. If you do that, إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. In the life of hereafter, you will be humiliated. Nauzubillahi min zalik. وَيَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ. And in the life of hereafter, you will be given serious punishment. وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware. Everything is seen, perused by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we are doing here. Your name is Abdul Karim. You used to perform 5 times regular prayers. You used to pay zakat. You are keeping fasting. but you are involved in interest. In verse number 275, Suratul Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَأَحَلَ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted business and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited interest. You are performing 5 times regular prayers. You are paying zakat, but you deals with interest. Nauzubillahi min zalik. That means you are accepting Islam in part. Islam does not allow these types of iman, these types of faith. If we do that in the life of both here and hereafter, we will be punished by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was verse number 85, second part of verse number 85, Suratul Baqarah, relevant in today's tafsir. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 285, Suratul Baqarah. It is also from Suratul Baqarah. Here Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. Verse number 285, Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, the messengers and actual believers of Islam bring faith on Allah and what has been revealed on them. That means an actual believer of Islam will have faith on the Holy Qur'an, because now the Holy Qur'an is the last testament, last revelation from Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being an actual believer of Islam, we must believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our only one creator. There is no partner of Him. There is no son of Him. There is no daughter of Him. There is no wife of Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only one, unique. And we must believe on His angels. Being a true believer of Islam, we shall have to have faith on angels. We are one of the creatures of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have been made by soil, by earth. And the jinn, they are also another creature of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have been created by fire. Like we and the jinn, the angels are also a creature of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but angels have been created by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the light of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from nur, from light of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being a Muslim, we must believe on all the books revealed by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawrat, Jabur, Injil, and other many short books, Sohifa, were revealed by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Holy Quran is the last testament, last book, last revelation. And being an actual believer of Islam, La nufarriqu bayna ahadim min rusuli. We believe on each and every prophet and messenger. We do not make any difference in between any prophet and messenger. Suppose the Christians, they used to make difference. They are crossing the border regarding Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. They are not agree to accept our beloved Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the last messenger of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As like as the Christians, the Jews are also doing the same thing. A true believer of Islam, a mu'min, a true Muslim will believe on each and every prophet and messenger sent by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We the Muslims, we respect Hazrat Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. We respect Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. We respect Dawood alayhi salam. We respect Ibrahim alayhi salam. We respect all the prophets and messengers. We do not make any difference among the prophets and messengers. And being a Muslim, we must believe that this Holy Qur'an has come, this last revelation from Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has come from Him. And we must believe on all the rules and regulations of Holy Qur'an and Sahih Hadith without raising any question. Because after our death, we shall have to appear. After our death, we will be revived by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to take accounts of our activities, what we are doing here. Being a Muslim, we must believe that we have come in this world for a short period. The tenure of our life is very short. And after expiry of our tenure in this world, we shall meet death, and after death, we shall be revived by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the life of hereafter in order to give accounts of our activities, what we are doing here. So, this was verse number 285 of Suratul Baqarah, relevant in today's tafsir. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 85, Suratun Ali Imran. In verse number 85, Suratun Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Whoever will search out any other religion other than Islam, that religion from him will not be accepted, and in the life of hereafter he will be among those who are losers. So through this verse number 85, Suratun Ali Imran, it is crystal clear that a Christian, if he dies without accepting Islam, he will be thrown in the fire as soon as he will be died. If a Jews, if a Christian, if a member of Hindu, if a member of Buddhist, or if a person of any other religion other than Islam will die before embracing Islam, he or she will be thrown in the fire as soon as he or she will be died. As soon as he and she will be died. There is no chance for them to be admitted in the heaven, in the life of hereafter, because the precondition to be admitted in the heaven, in the life of hereafter, is to embrace Islam, to accept Islam without raising any question. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 102, Suratun Ali Imran. In verse number 102, not 82, 102, Suratun Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. The this verse, this ayat 102 of Suratun Imran is very much remarkable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing the believers of Islam. But what is He saying? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the believers of Islam, fear Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He should be feared, and do not die until you are a Muslim. That means we the Muslims, we the believers of Islam are doing such activities that amounts to reject Islam, but we do not know it. So being a Muslim, being an actual believer of Islam, we must be always careful that whether we are saying anything that amounts to reject Islam, whether we are doing anything that amounts to reject Islam, regarding these things, we should be very careful, because we are doing many activities that amounts to reject Islam, but we do not know it. So, before saying anything, we must think over it, whether it amounts to reject Islam, whether it goes against Islam. Before doing anything, we must be careful whether these activities amount to reject Islam. This was verse number 102 of Suratun Imran. In verse number 102 Suratun Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to die standing on Islam, standing on Tawheed. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 76 of Suratun Nisa. It is also from Suratun Nisa, verse number 76. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت فقاتلوا أولياء الشيطان إن كيد الشيطان كان ضعيفا. A Muslim will always try in the way of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fi sabilillah. Before doing anything, before saying anything, we must be careful whether these words, whether these activities is going against Islam or not, whether it is against Islam or in favor of Islam. So, an actual believer of Islam will always be careful regarding this, that whether his any utterance, whether his any activity is going against Islam or is going in favor of Islam, he will be careful on that. On the other hand, the non-believers of Islam, they used to say, they used to make utterances, they used to do their activities in order to satisfy the devil, because they are the followers of devils, followers of shaitan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, Inna qayda shaitani kana du'ifa. Although the devil, they are doing many things against Islam, but devil is very weak. A devil is not stronger than the true believer of Islam. So being a Muslim, We must be careful on each and every moment regarding our activities, regarding our utterances, and we must be aware, we must be careful that whether my this utterance, whether my this activity is going against Islam or it is in favor of Islam. We must be careful regarding that. Now relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 144 and 145 of Suratun Nisa. Here Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattakhizul kafirina awliya min dunil mu'minin aturiduna an taj'alu lillahi alaykum sultanan mubina innal munafiqina fid darkil asfali minan nar walan tajida lahum nasira. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, oh the believers of Islam, do not accept the non-believers of Islam as your friend. If you accept the non-believers of Islam, kafir, as your friend, it amounts that you are giving a strong evidence against you to Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And here, in the next verse, verse number 145, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is saying, Innal munafiqina fid darkil asfali minan nar walan tajida lahum nasira. That means an actual believer of Islam will not accept a non-believer of Islam as his friend. Only a hypocrite, munafiq, will accept them as their friend. And the hypocrites, munafiqs, will be thrown in the fire. And whenever they will be thrown in the fire, they will not find anyone to help them. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 65 from Suratul Anfal. This verse is very remarkable. Each and every verse from the Holy Qur'an are remarkable, very significant. But in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is narrating, is stating that a Muslim is stronger than a non-Muslim by 10 times. In verse number 65, Suratul Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu hurridil mu'minina alal qital Iyakum minkum ishruna sabiruna yaghlibu miyatain Wa iyakum minkum miyatun yaghlibu alfam minalladhina kafaru biannahum qawmun la yafqahun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, O Prophet, ask the people to fight against the non-Muslims. Because if Muslims are 20 in number, they will defeat 200 non-Muslims. Allahu Akbar. If Muslims are 100 in number, they will defeat 1,000 non-believers of Islam. Allahu Akbar. That means in verse number 65, Suratul Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has categorically stated that a Muslim is stronger than a non-Muslim by 10 times. Allahu Akbar. So we the Muslims, we do not need to be afraid of the non-believers of Islam, because they are weaker than us by 10 times. We are stronger than the non-Muslims by 10 times. Allahu Akbar. Because and actual believers of Islam are always helped by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, whenever we shall try, we shall fight against the non-Muslims, we will be very much determined to know that we are stronger than the non-believers of Islam by 10 times as per Ayat number, verse number 65, Suratul Anfal. Nowadays, we used to hear that the neighbor country, India, the non-believers of Islam, the Hindu, they are shouting about on us. We need not be feared on their roads, on their shoutings, because they are the non-believers of Islam. And we the Bangladeshis, we are the believers of Islam. We are 10 times stronger than the Indians. So, the members of border guard of Bangladesh who are performing duty in the border area, don't be afraid of them. You are 10 times stronger than the Indian Army, BSF. You one member of border guard, BGB, is enough to kill 10 BSF. It is not my utterance. It is the utterance in the Holy Qur'an of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verse number 65, Suratul Anfal. So from this Tafsirul Mahfil, I would like to convey a message to the Indian. Be careful of us, because we the Muslims are 10 times stronger than you. Don't see on our country. Don't look on our country. Now, this was verse number 65, Suratul Anfal. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 73 of Surah Tawbah. In verse number 73, Surah Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu jahidil kuffara wal munafiqina waghluz alayhim wa ma'wahum jahannam wa bi'sal masir. O the Prophet, ask the Muslims, fight against the non-believers of Islam and the hypocrites, munafiq, and fight against them very hardly, very harshly, because the non-believers of Islam and the munafiqs, hypocrites, are the member of fire. How bad dwelling place the fire is. Nowadays, about 2 months ago, the interim government has taken power, and we know on the 5th of August we have achieved the actual independence of our country. We have achieved independence from the colonial environment of India. For the last 16 years, we were under Indian government. Nauzubillahi min zalik. And Awami League, the murderer, hypocrite Hasina, is a munafiq. So, now our interim government is fighting against the non-believers of India and the hypocrites Awami League, Jubo League, Chhatro League. So we shall have to be very careful regarding them, because we are actual Muslims. Now, the interim government who are running this country, they are actual government. The students and general people took part in the movement in the last fighting on the 5th of August, and they are the actual believer of Islam. So we should be happy to know that with the actual believers of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. Being the actual believers of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. So we do not need to be afraid. We do not need to be afraid of the Indian army, Indian soldiers, or the Awami League, Chhatra League, or the Jubo League. Indian army are the non-believers of Islam, and the Awami League, Jubo League, Chhatra League, they are the hypocrites, munafiqs. So this was verse number 73, Surah Tawbah, relevant in today's tafsir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has directed us through verse number 73, Surah Tawbah, to fight the non-Muslims and the hypocrites very hardly, very harshly. Next relevant verse in today's tafsir is verse number 8, Surah As-Saf. In verse number 8, Surah As-Saf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَاللَّهُ مُتِمُّ نُورِهِ لَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَاللَّهُ مُتِمُّ نُورِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ. The non-believers of Islam, they want to put out, turn off Islam by the blow of mouth, because they do not like Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, the non-believers of Islam, they will always try to put out Islam, to turn off Islam by the blow of their mouth. But remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will uphold Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give victory to Islam, although it is not liked by them. A non-believer of Islam, kafir, suppose the Indians, the munafiq, suppose a member of Awami League, Jubo League, Chhatra League, they will never like Islam. For the last 16 years, they tried their heart and soul to demolish Islam from Bangladesh. Whether they have been succeeded, the answer is no. Because Islam is the religion of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is the protector of Islam. The non-believers, the hypocrites will always try to demolish Islam, to put out Islam, to turn off Islam by the blow of their mouth. But they will never be succeeded. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is declaring in verse number 8, Suratun Saf, that Wallahu mutimmu nurihi walau karihal kafirun. Allah will give victory to Islam. The light of Islam will be given victory, although it is not liked by the non-Muslims. It is not liked by the hypocrites, the munafiq. So from this Tafsirul Qur'an Mahfil, I would like to convey a message to the non-believers of Islam, to the hypocrites, munafiqs, that you have tried a lot to demolish Islam from Bangladesh. You have tried your heart and soul for the last 16 years to turn off, to put out Islam from Bangladesh. Whether you have been succeeded, the answer is no. Because Inna nahnu nazzalna zikra wa inna lahu lahafizin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed this Qur'an, Holy Qur'an. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is the protector of this Holy Qur'an. Islam is the religion of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is the protector of Islam. So you will never be succeeded. So without trying to do anything against Islam, please come under the shelter of Islam, under the umbrella of Islam. Please accept Islam. I am inviting the non-believers of Islam to come under the shelter of Islam. And I am asking the hypocrites, the munafiqs, Awami League, Jubo League, Chhatro League, to seek pardon to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Enter in Islam completely by seeking forgiveness to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by seeking tawbah. Make tawbah. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you make actual tawbah, if you seek actual pardon, you will be pardoned. Now inshallah, we shall go with some relevant hadiths. Those are relevant in today's tafsir. First relevant hadith in today's tafsir is An Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsin shahadatu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa iqamus salah wa ita'uz zakah wal hajju wa sawmu Ramadan. Rawahul Bukhari wa Muslim. This hadith has been narrated by Hajjat Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu. He said that our beloved Prophet has said there are 5 pillars of Islam. There are 5 foundations of Islam. First, to give shahada, to bear witness that there is no creator but Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. Establish regular prayer, pay zakat, perform hajj and keep fasting during the month of Ramadan. Rawahul Bukhari wa Muslim. Next relevant hadith is An Abi Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu anna Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam suila ayyul amali afdalu faqal imanun billahi wa rasulihi. Rawahul Bukhari. This hadith has been narrated by Hajjat Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu. He said, our beloved Prophet was asked by his companions, which ibadat, which function in Islam is the best? Our beloved Prophet answered, Imanun billahi wa rasulihi. The first duty of a Muslim is to have faith on Allah and His Messenger. Rawahul Bukhari. Next relevant hadith is An Umar radhiyallahu anhu qala an-nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Ya ibn al-Khattab izhab fanadi fin nas annahu la yadkhulul jannata illa al-mu'minun. Rawahul Muslim. Hajjat Umar, this hadith has been narrated by second Khalifa Hajjat Umar radhiyallahu anhu. He said that our beloved Prophet has said, O Umar radhiyallahu anhu, O Mr. Umar ibn Khattab, O son of Khattab, go to the people and give the declaration that only the believers of Islam will be admitted in the heaven. That means the precondition to be admitted in the heaven, in the life of hereafter, is to embrace Islam, to accept Islam. Without embracing Islam, without accepting Islam, there is no chance for anyone to be admitted in the heaven. Suppose if a Christian, if a Jews, if a Hindu, if a Buddhist, or if a person of any other religion dies without accepting Islam, without embracing Islam, there is no chance for them to be admitted in the heaven. Rawahu Muslim. Last hadith in today's tafsir is relevant hadith in today's tafsir. An Abi Umama radhiyallahu anhu an Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam qala man ahabba lillahi wa abghada lillahi wa a'ta lillahi wa mana'a lillahi faqad istakmala al-iman. Rawahu Abu Dawud. Hajjat Umama radhiyallahu anhu has narrated this hadith. He said that he or she has got the actual taste of Iman. He or she has got the actual taste of Islam. Who loves Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he or she who loves anyone for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who makes enmity with anyone for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who give anything to anyone only for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or who restrain to give anything only for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has got the actual taste of Iman. That means in order to become an actual Muslim, our all the activities will be on the basis of Qur'an and Hadith. We shall make good relation with anyone only for the satisfaction of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We shall make enmity with anyone only for the satisfaction of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will pay anyone anything only for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will restrain to pay anything to anyone only for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means our all the activities in the life of here will be based only for the satisfaction of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And only then we shall be an actual believer of Islam. Now inshallah we shall have prayer to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before offering prayer, let us recite durood. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma amin. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا رب هب لي من الصالحين رب زدني علما أستغفر الله اللهم إني أسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. Oh Allah, we some of your servants have been gathered here in this Tafsirul Mahfil. We have discussed from your Holy Qur'an and Sahih Hadith. We have made many mistakes. Please forgive our all mistakes and accept this Tafsirul Mahfil. Oh Allah, increase our sustenance. Oh Allah, you know what is in the heart of us. Please fulfill our all good desires of our heart. Oh Allah, forgive our fathers, parents, mothers, all the relatives who died. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.